Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. So in this drawing I'm going to basically be showing step by step how I made the drawing of this eye. First of all, I started by doing the outline, as you can see me doing right now. I drew out the outline, and if you don't know how to do the outline, you can check my other videos to see how I use the grid method to do the eye. Now, in order for this video not to be too long, I'll be fast forwarding some procedures and be doing more of explanations on the slower sides. So basically what I'm currently doing now, I'm doing the outline of the eye, and I'm going to fast forward this stage as I said. Okay, without wasting much time, I'm going to fast forward this stage because basically where I understand most artists normally do have problems is on the shading part. So we'll go over to the shading part where I started outlining the darker lines and the very darker shades. I am currently using a Wolf's carbon pencil to get the darker outlines here. Why am I doing this? Because I'm reinforcing the dark parts of the eye, so that when shading I will know where the boundaries are, so that I will not over shade my boundaries. That is why I'm using this Wolf's carbon pencil. And you find out later on I will use a very small flat hard brush to blend it, so that I'll drive it into the teeth of the paper so that it will remain solid and there. I'm currently using a hard short brush to drive the Wolf's carbon pencil into the teeth of the paper. I am doing this because I want the line to remain there permanently. If you take a look at the reference picture, you understand that there's a crease there, and the crease has a very dark tone, because I will be shading over this crease and I wouldn't want to lose it while shading. That is why I'm going to do is there and reinforce it there, so that it will serve as a boundary for me not to overpass. I am currently using the blending stop. That's a tool there that is made up of rolled compressed paper to get the boundary of the iris. I'm doing this because I also want to create a boundary, and if you notice, the iris has a very dark shade and the white part of the eye also has a different eye shade. So I'm creating, basically what I'm doing now is creating a boundary. Why I didn't use the hard brush, because the tone on the iris is subtle, it's not as deep as that of the crease above the iris. So that is why I'm using the blending stump to do this right now. I am currently using the Conde Paris charcoal pencil 2B to get the dark part of the eye and the center. Then I will blend with the blending stop to make it even. For convenience purpose, you can use any type of charcoal pencil to get it if you don't have the Conte Aparis. Just ensure that it's a medium or soft charcoal pencil that is dark enough to give you the correct tonnage. I'm taking my brush to the left side of the screen to take on some Jakar compressed charcoal. This charcoal has been graded into different shades of grey and makes it easy for one to take out the dust and shade upon the drawing. So I shredded the chalk into dust, so that is what I'm using to create my first layer on the white part of the eye. So I'm currently using a round tipped brush, but if you can see closely, I've used a scissors to cut off the tip of the brush. That is what I'm using now to create my first layer on the white part of the eye. If you notice, I said white because obviously many of us think that the white part of the eye is actually white, but it's not actually white, and it depends on how light falls on that part of that eye on the reference. So I'm using the medium grade chalk of the Jakar compressed charcoal to shade the first layer on the left part of the eye. If you look closely on the reference, you observe that the left part of the white eye is darker than the right part of the eye, meaning that light is obviously coming from the right side. Observe clearly, I am not exceeding the boundary that I have already created with the thick lines using my blending stump. Okay, so another thing now to draw in before you start shading overall is the eyelashes. Now if you can see, I'm using the Wolf's carbon pencil to draw in the lower eyelashes. I'm using very fast soft curves to do this. I'm doing it individually, and you can see how I'm taking it carefully to put in the curves. Why do I put the eyelashes first? Because I am going to shade over them. So doing this first will allow me to know where they are, and later on, after shading on top of them, bring them out again using the careful curves to highlight where they are. So this is how I'm actually getting it. After doing this, I'm going to also do for the top side of the eye to get the eyelashes first. So here I'm going to fast forward the video, make it a bit faster so I can save a lot of time. So I'm currently using this medium small brush to get this darker tone just above the pupil. Now this is what it looks like. I'm sorry, my camera didn't stop recording at that point. So I used this to get this, and I used the necked Dakar chalk and Jakar compressed charcoal to get this, obviously grounded and turned into powder. So that was how I was able to get this. So I'm currently using a very small brush on the lighter chalk, obviously grounded into powder, to get the right part of the eye, which is lighter than the left side, which I already shaded initially at the start of the drawing. So you can see I'm using very low pressure to get it, because if you look at the reference, you observe that the right part is not as dark as the left part. So, and on the boundaries of the right side, you find a little bit of gradient there. So that is why I'm using this medium brush to create a gradient at the boundary there, just at the V-shaped side of the right side. There's a gradient there. So this subtle darkening will create a gradient to show the roundness of the eye. So that is what I'm currently doing right now. Okay, one thing about drawing with charcoal and making it realistic is at the beginning stage, and even at the medium stage of the process, the drawing looks chaotic. It looks as if it's not going to make sense. It looks as if you're not getting it well. But one thing you have to have in your mind is just hang on, wait, just relax, take it patiently, take it slowly. If you're overwhelmed, or maybe you feel like it's getting too much, just leave the pencil, leave the table, go take a walk. That is what I always tell artists. If you're overwhelmed, leave it, go take a walk. Whenever your mind is calm, come back to the drawing and start from wherever you stopped. But one thing here is do not rush. When you start rushing the drawing, you overlook certain little tiny things that will make it look good, and you eventually spoil it. So one thing you should have in mind is resilience and patience. Resilience in terms of when you are overwhelmed, keep on going, and being patient enough to take it calmly and slowly. Nobody's giving you a deadline, especially when it's your personal work, except it's a commissioned work which you have to deliver on time. But mind you, if you rush any work, it's not going to make sense, except you are Kelvin Okafor. Yeah. So as you can see, I'm reinforcing the boundary of the iris with the Conte Aparis pencil. Initially, I did it before I started shading, but now I'm just reinforcing it to remind myself this is where the boundary is, so that I will not exceed. Okay, here comes another technique. So I'm about to shade the iris. In the reference, the iris is dark, and I'm going to go over for the first layer using a cotton board or a Q-tip, whichever name you call it. So I'm going to take a Q-tip to go over the iris gently and slowly. So this is my first layer. I am using the medium grade of the Jakar compressed charcoal, obviously turned into powder, to get this. So this is the process of me doing it. I'll use this to get all over the iris except where the highlights are falling on, which are obviously pure white. I wouldn't shade over those places. So watch the process. So I'm adding a second layer. If you observe, it's getting a bit darker. So with the same Q-tip and powder, just like this is like a layer on top of this first layer. So gradually I'll continue like this. So I'm using my brush now to go over the third layer, making it much more darker. Now I'm using the darkest grade of the compressed charcoal to get this. So I'm taking my time to get the dark layer. Now, if you can see the magic, the left part of the white eye seems not really as dark as it is when compared with the iris. So the iris now is in the middle of the eye and is now the darker component of the eye. It now, tricks the eye to say, oh yeah, the left part of the eye is no longer the dark and the darkest. So the left part of the eye reserves a seat, like say, okay, the medium. Now the right part of the white eye is obviously there, but it's not as white as the paper. You understand? The only whitest of the whitest is the reflection on the iris, which is just above. It's going to remain like that because it's a reflection of light and it's called the highlight. It's the whitest part of the eye. So the white part of the eye, as we normally call it, is not actually pure white. Yeah. Now I'm using a hard small brush to get the crease just below the eye. So I'm using the medium charcoal dust to do this. So here I'm using the soft brush with the tip cut off, using the medium charcoal to make a soft blend here. You see, I'm taking it gradually, gently to get the right tonnage. Obviously, this is the first layer. I'm still going to add more layers. If you have gotten to this stage, you are the boss. If you've gotten to this stage and you have any question, please drop it in the comment section because you are the boss. Obviously, drawing for long hours can be boring. But what thing I do is sometimes I listen to music, sometimes I listen to audiobooks, sometimes if I get tired, I take a walk or do something else. But if you are still here, you are the boss. Hey, chop knuckle, man, chop knuckle. Okay, at this stage, you just have to enjoy the drawing. If you have any questions, drop it in the comment section. I'll reply as soon as I can. Enjoy the music, enjoy the show, enjoy the drawing. I'll be right back. Don't go away. Yo, wait, hey, calm down, calm down, calm down. That's not a broom. That's a brush. That's a makeup brush, obviously, don't mind me. So what I'm actually doing with this big brush is actually very, very soft. I'm using it to take out excess powder at the top of the eye. So there's a bit of fair tone there. So I don't want to go over there too much to like cover it. So I'm using the brush to like, sweep off the excess charcoal there. So that was why I brought the big guy. Yeah. The big guy can also be used to shade very, very, if you're doing a very massive work, you can use it as your primary brush because it's soft and it can be used for your first layer. Obviously, it's very big, so I'm just using it to wipe off. So I'm now putting the second layer on the top side. I've done the first layer which runs across the circumference of the eye. Then I'm doing the second layer which is a bit darker, obviously with the hard brush. So one thing you have to understand about brushes and layers is the softer the brush, the lighter the tone. The harder the brush, the darker the tone, because the bristle, if the bristle of the brush is hard, it will drive the powder down into the teeth of the paper. Just think about brushing your hair with a hard brush and brushing your hair with a very soft brush. The harder brush will hit your scalp, but the soft brush will just brush over your hair. So that is how it is here. I'm using, if you want to get a very dark tone, you use a very hard brush, depending on what you want. So I'm using the Tombow Mono eraser to get out the highlights. This eraser is very fine. You can find it on Amazon. It's called Tombow Mono eraser. You just wipe off to get the highlights. You see, I'm using it at the right side and also the left side, and these will give you that realistic feel or the reflections on the eye, to make it realistic and all that. If you have come this far, you are the king. You are the king. You deserve a gold medal. One thing here is remember the two keywords: resilience and patience. If you are resolute to say that, wow, I'm going to see this to the finish, trust me, you are going to learn it. If it is your first trial, remember, do not compare yourself with someone who is doing his 170th trial. If it's your first trial, it's going to be like your first trial. But one thing you should have at the back of your mind is, do not give up. Being tired is different from giving up. If you're tired or overwhelmed, you can go and take a rest, but come back to the drawing. I was never really as good as this, but it became much better as I practiced and became patient over the years. So I'm rooting for you. If you have any questions, drop it in the comment section. I'll see you in the next video. I am signing out. See you. Gotten value from this video, do not forget to hit the subscribe button. Thank you.